gonna cool down the snow a little bit, I think.
Maybe even tonight, they said there might be some freezing.
Oh,
Wait, 30 more seconds. My cues are starting early before people are ready. Let's get our budget in the cards here. Alright, it's 7:30. Okay, we'll call this meeting of the Jamestown City Council Monday, February 3rd work session to order. The clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sheldon?
Here.
Rackley?
Here.
Patterson?
Here.
Reynolds?
present.
Faulkner?
Here.
Bonfiglio? DeVersa?
Here.
Russell?
Here.
And President Cole.
Here, thank you. This time we'll give a chance for people to address the council. If there's anyone here that would like to address the council this evening, please state your name and address and limit your remarks to 5 minutes.
Hi, Pete Maraglia, 29 Glenwood Avenue. I'm here mainly just to collect information, see what this is all about. Also, I'm a commercial property owner downtown, so it's a big interest to me. I see now, I just got this handout, so I got an idea, a rough outline of what the process is. The only thing I would say is that, and I don't know if that's in the plans or how this comes about, but I think property owners, especially downtown property owners, should have the opportunity, I think they should be directly asked by the city on what their thoughts are on this. We got a lot of vacant structures downtown now. I don't see how this is gonna particularly address that. I understand the desire to wanna, protect and preserve historic structures. But at the same time, we have to address here. A building that I would think might come to mind would be the arcade building in its present state and its location and everything else. There's a lot going against that to get that ever developed. And I think, just as an example on how maybe some of this could be approached, and the city would have to take the lead on this, but if you look down East First Street, you've got the remains of the Worsted Mill, the Broadhead Mills there. And so if you were looking like a project there where you do want to see the arcade building restored, along these preservation guidelines. But if you incorporate a big project with the rest of that mill that's down there and make that maybe not subject to the guidelines and package that whole thing to a developer, because they could see where the Broadhead Mills is, that's a good potential for loft apartments, workspaces, that sort of thing. Tie it all in with the arcade building, where you could convince the developer it's worth the extra expense to keep that historical. So I'm just saying, I think communication needs to be made. I think property owners need to be contacted by the city individually and get their thoughts on the properties that they own. Because right now, a lot of it's sitting idle. And I don't know what their thoughts are. They think they're gonna get a windfall down the road somewhere, but if the building deteriorates, that's not gonna happen. So that's the only thing I wanna stress is I think the city really needs to start talking to the property owners before even, proceeding too far along with this and get the input. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see anybody else here tonight. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I'll be quick. So just to address, hi Pete. My understanding is there would need to be a 30-day public comment period to have it adopted anyway. So public comment certainly would be sought before it could be approved. But secondly, and we did just talk about it in the public safety meeting. So a few clarifying things. With a local preservation ordinance, and obviously this is just the very first draft. Elliot's office actually drafted it, so I think there's some anticipation there will be a lot of back and forth and some things that will change. But for a local preservation ordinance, the intent of it is not to be restrictive and to kind of cut off our nose to spite our face. It's to actually serve as an additional tool and an opportunity for property owners. So if you own a property that is in, you already know, we have 3 historic designated districts. With a local preservation ordinance that opens up additional state and federal funding. So if a property owner is looking to do a project, we use the example of replace windows, whether it's a commercial building or a residential, and the owner is looking to use, whether it's, historic tax credits or some other type of funding that is public funding, that is where the Historic Preservation Office would kind of apply some restrictions to make sure that the replacement of those windows was in keeping with the historic character of the building. If you are replacing windows in your building and it's on your dime, you can do whatever you want.
Right.
There's no restriction to that. A local preservation ordinance is required to protect a building. So right now, we have no ability to protect a building from, if an owner decides they wanna tear it down, there's not much we can do about it. But I did get some clarification from Ellen Shadle, our planner, just a few minutes ago, is with a local preservation ordinance, I'll just read it right off my phone here. It's not required to receive a national register designation. It is required to protect a building, a landmark, and it is required to receive a state designation. So, I don't know if that helps with anything, but anticipate that there will be some other opportunity for feedback.
Yeah, if I could reply to that.
Sure.
I understand with the grants, money and stuff like that, you've always had that leverage, which is totally fine. Yeah, I totally understand that. I think what I'm trying to do is, I'm gonna reiterate, I think the city needs to be a little more aggressive with the property owners and to start contacting them individually. Public hearings are great, but a lot of people just don't come out of the woodwork. That's what I've seen.
Okay.
And I think, if, I know your department's busy, there's a lot going on, but I think it would really be worthwhile to start approaching some of these individuals. Cause we've got buildings sitting here empty for years. I don't know what the owners think they're getting out of that. That's all I'm trying to reiterate, is
Okay.
a little more proactive.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Move on to housing and kind of go right into that, I guess.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. We didn't have anybody speak from the public, and it was a sparse attendance, but we did talk about the LPO in a brief way, that it is new to most of us, and so new that we haven't had a time to really digest the 42-page document. And personally heard about it with the Post-Journal editorial on Saturday, I believe, and then Sarah's article today in today's paper. So as I, on Sundays, went through and tried to grasp what was involved, it was overwhelming to me, and so the committee tabled any action on the LPO to gather more information from different sources, i.e. the public, i.e. Crystal's office, and other council people, and maybe even some SHPO people, or registry people, or even architects in general that have a fancy for the historical nature of many of our buildings and homes in the city. So not a lot of action, not a lot of comment, other than we're faced with reviewing it and going through it a little more intently. Councilman Paternini brought up the fact that there was minutes from the City Planning Commission that were published, and that's a source for information for folks to see how the Planning Commission took a liking or had a discussion, I should say, on the law itself, on the ordinance itself. And, so, hopefully we'll have some more information for next week. We've got somehow either Crystal or somebody on the planning commission might do a presentation to the whole council at some future point in time. So we tabled it.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you. Move on to finance, Brent.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had 3 resolutions. The first authorizing K-9 Officer James Latimer to attend the 2025 K-9 Week to be held in Oriskany, New York, April 28th to May 2nd. Meal and gas expenses paid by the Jamestown Police Department pursuant to Section 77B of the General Municipal Laws of the State of New York. He's taking his K-9 with him. It doesn't say that in here, but I assume it is.
He's taking the dog with him.
The dog deserves a weekend at a hotel.
He's going on a weekend.
That was approved. Next, resolved that Officer Zach Sandberg and Luke Manella hereby authorized to attend the New York Tactical Training Conference and Expo to be held April 14th through April 18th in Verona, New York. The expenses totaling $2,500.00 paid from the police department's 2025 travel, education, and gas accounts pursuant to Section 77B of the General Municipal Laws. That was approved. And finally, we had a resolution authorizing Battalion Fire Chiefs Ryan Roush and Sean Schilling to attend the New York State Office of Fire Prevention Control Fire Officer 3 training course to be held at the Erie County Fire Training Center in Cheektowaga beginning Monday, February 24th, including Friday, February 28th. Fees and expenses paid pursuant to Section 77B of General Municipal Laws of the State of New York. I just had one question that this course is a requirement for a battalion chief or whoever has this training to be hired as a fire chief or deputy fire chief?
That is correct. As Section 58A of the Civil Service Law requires the administrative head of the fire department to possess Fire Officer 3.
And are there currently any battalion chiefs that have this training now?
There are not. There are 2 individuals in Chautauqua County that have that training.
Two. You're one of
Maybe
them.
one of them,
You're one of them.
Fredonia's fire chief would be the other.
That's what we thought. That was approved. We heard from our comptroller. She says taxes are still being collected. People are starting to pay fees or fines now because they're late. The 2023 audit is almost complete. She's still waiting to come back from her contact person. And we're waiting to hear on the 4th quarter sales tax report. Currently, it's not on the county's website yet. She's reached out to the county, trying to get clarification on when we will get those numbers. And that was all we had from finance.
Any questions, comments? If not, move on to public safety. Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. President. Our first resolution was also on the adoption of the local preservation ordinance. I think enough's been said about that. We also had concerns about it, the language in there, and just the amount of information in those documents. So we decided to table it. I do agree with Mr. Maraglia that I think building owners, businesses should be contacted or encouraged to possibly come to some sort of meeting or something that invite people in to present this eventually. So I think this whole thing is really in its infancy, and I would encourage all council members to really dig into this document, dissect it, and come up with as many questions or concerns that you have. And I think we really need to look hard on this before anything comes to a vote on it. So that was tabled. The second resolution also appeared on the finance agenda, and that was for sending K-9 Officer Latimer to training, which in Oriskany. That passed. The third also appeared on the finance agenda, and that was Zach Sandberg and Luke Manella going to training April 14th to April 18th in Verona, New York, and that passed. The fourth was also on finance, and that was sending Ryan Roush and Sean Schilling to firefighter 3 training. From what I understand, that's pretty intense training, extremely difficult. Like the chief said, there's not too many people that have that, but it is a necessary training. So that passed. And then we had a couple informational reports. There was a streetlight request at Glenview and West Virginia Avenue that's going to be taken care of. And then a special event for St. Pat's Dash to be held on Saturday, March 15th from 9 a.m. until 11:30 a.m., including setup and tear down. That's an annual event with the same course that benefits Striders, I believe. So, and that passed. And that was all we had, unless
I'd like to add that Corporation Counsel Elliot Raimondo did give us some handouts regarding the LPO. I'm sorry I didn't mention it earlier, but there's a bubble chart on whether or not a property fits the criteria, and also some steps to take to create the district, and also how to nominate a particular property for its status, its historical status. So I want to thank him for giving us some valuable information to think over. Thank you, Elliot.
Any other questions or comments for safety? If not, Randy, was there anything more?
No, we didn't have any resolutions in Public Works, and there was no discussion.
Is there anything else before we go to the mayor's remarks? Anybody want to? If not, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I just have 2 brief things. One, you all should have received your State of the City. I know the media has covered it very well, but if you have anything, get a hold of my office. I know it's lengthy. I want to thank Joe and Ashlyn. Joe did an awful lot of work on it. Ashlyn helped. It's full of information of everything that we have done this last year and some things coming down the pike, but I think it was very, very well covered. I don't think there was much that we missed, so if anything at all. The second item I have, which has been a hot topic of discussion for a while, Mark is still on vacation as the department head for the DPW, but I know I messaged you all this weekend. I know we've all seen the deterioration of 2nd Street. I just want to remind everybody that this is, I think, the thing that we got a little bit spoiled on is this is the first real winter that we've really had in the last few years, and many streets are taking a beating, above and beyond for sure. But I do want to reassure the public that we're not just sitting on our hands, not engaging with the state, not engaging in conversation with our state leaders. We have spoken, my office and I personally have spoken in depth with Assemblyman Molitor and Senator Borrello in depth about it. They are taking it up the chain to the DOT. I do know someone was down here today and looked at it. I don't know what we're going to get, but we are encouraging everybody to reach out to the New York State DOT and express your frustrations just as much as we are and carry on those conversations. My office is happy to provide that information, but it's the Buffalo office that we are dealing with, and the plan is to start it this year. I don't know where 2026 was coming from. I do know it's a big project. If you think about the work that was done on Washington and how long that took, this section here between 4th Street and 2nd Street is bigger. So I anticipate, even in a good summer, a lot of the work to take a while. So I know that it's going to start this year. I don't know any of the details. The state controls the bidding. The city didn't sit on their hands and not send paperwork out and bidding out. I'd like to dispel all those rumors that are going around and keep circulating. We really have nothing to do with the internal workings on it. The only thing we do is maintain that road, patch it, and plow it. So we are putting coal patch in, but unfortunately it's coming right back up, and that's the nature of the beast. So until April 1st, when the real asphalt plants come out, we're kind of limited, as Randy can attest to.
That's right, yeah.
So, we're doing the best we can. We're engaging in some in-depth conversation, trying to move it on their priority and show how bad it is. But I have a gut feeling that there's probably many other roads and many other communities in the same situation we are.
Yes, and I just wanted to add that, the contract that the DOT is gonna, undertake and get let out is gonna be in July. And one of the first things they'll be doing is the infrastructure with some signage, some traffic lights, and, handicap ramps. And they will attack that first, and they probably will not mill and pave it, this summer. I hate to say it, but that's not where they start. They start with the infrastructure. And in the meantime, like the mayor said, patching it is what we plan on doing. And let's see if we can at least ease the pain of the traveling public. We do know it's bad. It's also, like the mayor said, it's a state road, and we're in charge of patching and paving until the contract gets let out. Once the contract gets let out, the city is exonerated from all maintenance of that road except for the plowing in the winter.
Is there if we do some milling of areas and patching, can we be reimbursed for that possibly?
That's the discussion we're having. I obviously,
Right.
George and Andy don't know that answer, so.
So what I hear you saying, and for the public's benefit, is we're not just gonna kick this can down the road, no pun intended, until July.
No.
The conditions of that road are going to be addressed one way or another, up until that project happens. I mean,
Yes.
it's, obviously, there's been videos that people have taken, and, I don't wanna see people with busted tie rods and tires popped and everything else, so,
There is
Randy
a-
and I, we talked
we
earlier
talked.
about, markets back and, coming up with a plan
Mhm.
to do what we need to do to make it
sure.
And it is,
safe and travel, be able to travel that road between now and what the state does to it. So I'm sure there'll be patching going on, whether it's cold patching for now, and then something a little more in-depth as we get into the spring season to at least.
it
make
is possible to do some spot milling with a machine. They have a bobcat, and they can, I'm sure we'll be addressing the fact that they might be able to run down at least the wheel tracks and mill the wheel tracks and throw some hot mix in there, which the plant doesn't open until, if I'm not mistaken, the last week of April. So right now, we can just put cold patch in there and hope most of it stays.
Should we be putting some signage up with
That was my
Someone-
question.
someone that's not from the area and doesn't know it?
Rough road.
What road it is?
Yeah.
So Mark and I are planning on talking tomorrow when he comes back. So I don't know if that would be us or the state. So there's all these other questions of who, our obligation is filling the holes, is it putting up signs? I don't know, so that's what we need to find out.
Reduce the speed limit maybe, if it's allowed. Make it
That
safe.
might be worse.
I was gonna say, people are gonna drive however they want. My biggest concern is we have people driving to avoid the potholes, and that's dangerous than not driving on it, so. But we have to keep in mind, we have a lot of businesses there, and they're feeling the consequences of this as well. So I've been engaged with a lot of the business owners down there that have reached out, and they're reaching out to the state directly. They're giving a unified force. So that's what I'm encouraging everyone to do.
And George and Andy know, because we've contacted them, and they're doing the best they can to get something.
Sounds like everyone's on top of it.
We're trying.
Unfortunately, it's February 3rd. So we
Yeah.
have to be patient because we can't fix it tomorrow. Like I said, cold patch it for now, and when the weather gets warmer, another plan for a little bit more intense.
Maybe get a little more aggressive then.
Yeah.
Is that it? Do you have anything?
Yes, no, I'm done. That's it. I have nothing for executive session.
Is there anything else that anybody has? If not, We're adjourned.